Alright, we are back to show you the gluing and reassembly of the phone. Here you can see that I have my that I just removed. And I have this goop, which is a rubberized adhesive, which will be a little bit easier to work with than super glue. I don't like to use super glue because it gets too brittle and it can break when you start to reassemble your phone. With the mechanism that's in this phone that pulls the screen to the innards, you're going to want to use a rubberized glue. I'm going to use a toothpick to help apply this. You have to work really fast with this glue because it will turn into its rubberized counterpart here. Now you want to spread this nice and thin. You don't want to put an excess amount on, which will gush out. You want to put a nice thin layer on to the point where almost like the consistency of like a thicker tape. You want to be very careful of your proximity sensor and the camera area here as well. You don't want to get your goop inside of those areas. It will make it milky and be hard to remove. We're going to put just a thin line, and you will have to probably use your hands to get this to apply to the frame down the side. Now what I have done in the past is I've used this in conjunction with super glue. So I put a little super glue into the corners of where I want it to stay, and then I've put the remainder of this goop down the sides of the frame. And that's worked pretty well. As this goop will take 24 hours to set up. So you'll see my video kind of cut and then come back to the assembly of the phone. So let this sit and let it to start to adhere to the frame. And the reason why I'm using a toothpick instead of just slathering on there is I won't get a thin enough fill of what I want on the frame if I just squeeze it out of the tube directly onto the frame. Any other type of application tool you want to use will be fine. So we're going to go ahead and take our frame here. I've got it exactly where I want the goop on it, and we'll go ahead and slide it on here. You want to make sure that your camera holes line up, and the frame is very snug to the LCD. So you can move it around a little bit while this goop is still nice and dry. You'll have probably about 3 minutes before it starts getting really sticky, and then if you start moving around, it might become unusable after that point. So you want to move pretty quickly here. Just double check this camera slot. So I got a little bit of goop oozing out, and I want to make sure that it doesn't actually go in there and cover the camera hole. So I like to move my fingers around it. We want to make sure it's nice and tight, especially in the corners, as when you pull the frame down, it'll kind of stick to, go into the slots within the actual Nokia bezel. So let's double checking this all the way around. I'm going to keep pressing it down until I'm very confident that it is nice and tight. It's kind of a pain to go back and do this more than once. You also want to remove any excess glue from the outside of the frame as well, as it will have to sit into the Nokia bezel as well. So if you need to, take a toothpick or something of the sort, and it looks like a little bit of a loose side here, so I'm going to squish some of this glue into it with my finger and just get it to sit up. Alright, so we'll squish it back down again. It's almost like a silicone, but it's a little bit stickier over the 24-hour period as it starts to set up. Now as you go through, if you see any spots where you feel like it's loose, you can just kind of pull it up a little bit, squish some glue underneath it, and then seal it shut. Now you want to clean up as much of this glue as possible while it's wet. It's a lot easier to clean up when it is wet instead of when it dries within its curing period after 24 hours. So definitely take your toothpick or your pry tool or whatever you're using and make sure you clean off the exterior in between the plastic frame and the LCD as well. And you see when I press on it, the goal is am I looking at it and is it lifting up? I definitely don't want that to happen. So I can blow on it a little bit and try to adhere the glue to that point and get it to stick. And that's kind of why I used it in conjunction with super glue to a degree. What I'll do is I'll set the frame down and just put something a little bit heavier on it and hopefully get it to stay adhered to the frame. That's something that I'll do for a little bit. That's what I'll do when I leave it for 24 hours. It's just so you're aware. You can put a book on it or something like that. Something that will help make it stay down as it dries. Just going to double check here and just making sure that when I press down the frame's not lifting away. You want to make sure it's nice and solid. all the way around. And this is a concern spot for me, as it's kind of lifting up a little bit, so I'm just going to hold it down for a few seconds. Everywhere else seems to look nice and tight. I'll take my fingernail and just try to clean up some of this excess glue. It is pretty sticky on the fingers as well. Don't stress too much if you get on the front side of the LCD. Since it's nice and sticky glass, you can peel it off a little bit if it's a small amount. If it's a large amount, then I'd probably just go ahead and try to remove it as much as possible. Definitely don't let it sit there for the full 24 hours. Alright, I'm going to let it cure and dry, and you'll see my video cut. And after it's dried, we are back here now to reassemble. We're going to put in our front-facing camera back into the right slot here. You don't have to use any double-sided tape. There should still be a little bit of adhesive on the proximity sensor to help hold it down. If you need to, you can use just a really, really small piece of 3M tape to keep it locked into place. But I'm pretty confident that what we have there is fine. And we're just going to do the exact same disassembly in reverse. Our battery is still unplugged. And we're going to go ahead and just reattach the LCD. It's just the smaller ribbon cable first. It'll give us less play. It's a lot easier to do this one first than the front-facing camera. And these can be a little bit tricky because it's kind of an awkward position to put this in as your phone's completely reassembled. And then we're going to put in our front-facing camera. Now the thing that messes me up a little bit with the front-facing camera when I'm reassembling it is the ribbon cable. The attachment's not directly in the center of the cable. It's actually separated to the bottom side more. So you want to be aware of that as you're putting it back together. It might save you some time of trying to stick that ribbon cable back in there. We're going to reattach our battery. Just going to press the battery clip back into place. And what we're going to do is we're going to take it and slide this side in first, as it has clips on it, and then we're going to push down and clip this side back in. Alright, we are looking good. We've got good adhesion. I'm just going to check all the corners and make sure it's sitting nice and flush, which it is. Just double check all these corners just to make sure. I'm going to put our SIM slot back in, which is actually something you shouldn't do. You should actually tighten down the screw first, and I just realized, whoopsie. So I'll go ahead and get my eject tool here real quick if I can find it. I'll just use this dental pick. Although I have like 1,000 eject tools sitting around here, I just can never find one when I need it. Pull it out. We're going to tighten down this screw until it gets nice and tight. It doesn't have to be extremely tight, just to get it snug, as it'll kind of pull and suck the frame down a little bit. Oh man, I just put it in backwards. I am just not having luck today. Don't put your SIM slot back in backwards on this phone because it is difficult to get out. There we go. Put it back in right side up. There we go. That's the right way. And we're just going to power on our phone here real quick and see if it's functioning for us. Which it is. There we go. Alright, so it's going to power back on. We're just going to double check to make sure that the digitizer is functioning to touch. The LCD display looks nice and good. I'm just checking all the corners again just to make sure there's no flex in there. There may be a little bit of flex, and that's okay. It's not the snuggest fitting repair all the time, but as long as it doesn't pop off, you should be fine. Alright, here we go. Just going to go ahead and see there's no SIM in it. Just double check it. Everything seems to be functioning fine. So this is the replacement of the glass on a Nokia 1020. Hopefully you liked the video. If you found it helpful, go ahead and like it if you did. You can subscribe to me for some of my future repairs, some notes, probably doing a local repair or two. Thanks for watching, you guys. I hope you watch my future videos. Thank you.